Radio Flange Goblet has asked me to read this announcement. The following episode of the After Movie Diner features some very loud nudity. Okay, Marjorie, hold up the left one. A bit higher. Now the right. Oh, they both look amply fine to me. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the After Movie Diner. Yes, that's correct. We've got so much to get through, so no time for my silliness, usual or otherwise. First of all, up on the show, it is an absolute pleasure. You don't interview Brian Trenchard-Smith. He takes you into his home and you have a fantastic conversation with him. Honestly, some of the best movie and life chat you could possibly have is had with Brian Trenchard-Smith, and it is our pleasure to welcome him back onto the show. For people not in the know, Brian previously appeared on episode 138, where we spoke for 2 hours about a lot of his horror film work and his latest film at that time, Drive Hard. On this episode, we're going to be talking almost exclusively about The Man from Hong Kong and his brand new novel, The Headman's Daughter.
I'm quite used to a chat.
Yes, of course. And we had a wonderful chat a while ago for my show a couple of years ago, which was
yes.
Which was I think we touched more on your horror work on there because it was sort of an October episode and we were covering more horror things. But we went right back to your early work. And where does Man from Hong Kong seems to be a very early feature for you? Was it your sort of first theatrical film, or had you been involved behind the scenes prior to this?
Well, yes, it was certainly my first theatrical film as a director. I had directed bits and pieces for television, sections of a documentary or two, the film sequences for each of the contestants of Quest of Quests, which was a nationally broadcast show in Australia. And for a couple of years, I was the associate producer and film sequence director, and occasionally commercials where the network made a deal with a product, a group, and they bypassed the ad agency. They bought time on the network, and the network provided the commercial. And so as an in-house creative person, I would do some of those. I introduced some nudity into a swimwear commercial. Go Bear or Go Trixie was the line. And I had a discreetly photographed model from the rear. Yes. Anyway, I got lots of bits of practice in many genres and forms. So when I left television, I wanted to do something that was dramatic, and then I made the 1 hour TV special, The Stuntmen, initially just as a documentary, but with an understanding with my old network, the Channel 9 network, that they would buy it. And pegging the price at $16,000. So I made it for about $1,500 less, so I was already ahead of the game. But I entered it into the Sydney Film Festival. It won Best Documentary, and then it became my calling card for doing action movies. And I showed it to Raymond Chow of Golden Harvest in Hong Kong, and that convinced him that I could deliver the goods. He signed on to be the 50% co-producer of the Man from Hong Kong with my company in Australia. And so prior to that film, the only actors I had directed were Marty Feldman, who came to Australia for a TV special, and I shot the whole thing on film. It was a half-hour Marty Feldman at the zoo. He sang songs from Dr. Dolittle, and he had sketches around animal themes and vegetarian themes.
Yeah.
But really, you just put your camera on Marty and let him go, and just cover it from a number of angles, and it'll cut together somehow. So other than that, it was some comedy sketches I did for my first film that ended up being released theatrically, The Love Epidemic, which was a sort of a mockumentary about sexually transmitted diseases. So we reenacted little moments, such as Henry VIII discovering that he had a little problem down there. Yeah. And he had a rather big stomach and he couldn't see for himself. But it was watch how you hold the candle, girl.
Of course.
So they're rather broad and sketches, and they're bad. This was I was on a learning curve, but the film has a certain weird fascination that you'd never. And it was released in 5 or more theatres in Australia at the very beginning of 1975, and I don't think you'd get people putting down money to see what was really an old-fashioned VD film with that they would show to the soldiers with comedy sequences. Look, I think it had some wackiness about it that people liked at that time. Anyway, so that my experience with actors was limited, and I think it shows in my early work. But it got better.
So you write and produce and co-produce and direct The Man from Hong Kong. It's the first Australian Hong Kong co-production. Where did that idea? Did they come to you? Or did you go to them? How did that all come to be?
Well, I had I started a quarterly movie magazine, believe it or not, with the and it was I started it as Movie 72. It was sold through Greater Union Theatres in Australia, and we had printed 20,000 copies, and we sold 16,000 for the first edition. So they said, yes, okay, this will work. So I was the founding editor and basically the writer and paraphraser of a 60-page, largely photographic glossy for 7 years. And then I sold out my interest, and it continued being produced and sold in Australian theatres and drive-ins for another 15 years, I think, after that. Anyway, I was influenced by American magazines like Photoplay, and I thought, I'd like to do a magazine like this. So that magazine allowed me to go around the world and do interviews with stars and things like that for the magazine, and it enabled me to push my own barrow, so to speak, while I was doing that. So I'd heard of the Bruce Lee phenomenon in Asia, but it hadn't reached the Western world yet. And I went through Hong Kong and basically, explored, the martial arts scene there, and went and saw Raymond Chow and said, "What about a co-production in Australia?" And I've got this story, about a Chinese Dirty Harry who comes to Australia and wrecks the place because, he's committed to the force of. He's committed to justice, and really it doesn't matter how much property damage he causes,
right, of course.
in order to obtain it. So he kind of liked the idea, and it would be So I then went back to Australia and said, let me pursue this, and let's put together a co-production. And it took about a year or a bit more than a year, I suppose, to get put into place, and then it was delayed another 3 months, I think. So I wish it could have been done quicker, because I would have been. Even with Bruce dead, I would have been at the head of the martial arts curve as far as American release was concerned. So Man from Hong Kong got a little lost in the avalanche of Hong Kong cheaply made martial arts movies that were released in the US after Bruce Lee. But it did well. It did much better in Europe and, of course, Australia. But anyway, I got interested in it, and I even did a separate movie magazine called The World of Kung Fu, which actually was only one issue and a revised edition.
Yeah.
To capitalize upon the growing interest. And then I was able to make a documentary, which I was going to meet Bruce Lee and interview him, and he died probably just as I was boarding the plane. I landed and in Hong Kong and found, oh my God, Bruce Lee has died. So I made a sort of tribute to him, and interviewed Raymond Chow, interviewed Run Run Shaw, interviewed Ricky Yui of Pan Asia, various people, Andre Morgan, all those associated with Bruce Lee's rise and enormous success, and made this TV special about him. But that led, doing all of that led to a relationship with Raymond Chow that finally bore fruit in The Man from Hong Kong, which became profitable, but it just could have made a lot more money if it had just been released 6 months earlier.
And obviously in the movie, the two most well-known Asian actors are obviously Sammo Hung is in there, and then obviously Jimmy Wang Yu or Yu Wang as the lead. Who had been in the Flying Guillotine film. Obviously, that was his big hit. I think that's what he was known for at the time, right? Well,
he come up through the ranks. Initially, he was a utility stuntman at Shaw Studios, and he came up through the ranks and caught the attention of one of their top actresses who was 7 years his senior. And I think they got together, and then she helped him get a starring vehicle in which he excelled.
Yeah.
And so he was a number one star before Bruce Lee, and then very briefly came back as a big star after Bruce Lee. He was, the way the Golden Harvest people talked about him, they said he's like the Asian Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
So, which, I guess, just he just a serious look, and then a low growl, and then he punches you. So, but Jimmy was a tremendous athlete. And he does amazing things in The Man from Hong Kong, and he climbed two levels of up the drain pipe of that building.
Yes.
He climbed 2 levels of it by himself without ropes, with a cracked rib, which he had cracked the day before, practicing being up in a hang glider, tethered 30 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
But he had, as they say, a hard landing, and he didn't break a rib, but he definitely cracked one. And that was on his one day off, and then the next day we were to do the big climb sequence, where he would, climb to where he felt safe and no further. Then Grant Page would take over, doubling him, and then I'd put him back on the drain pipe 7 floors up. And have him cabled so that we actually would see him go through the window in Australia and connect with the martial arts interior, which was a set in Hong Kong. So if you look very carefully, he conceals the hand that has the cable in it till the very last moment. But if you look for it, I'm afraid you can see it's just there. These days, of course, they would paint it out digitally, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but I think that's the thrill. I mean, we do mention that, talking about the film, a lot of the stunts that both Jimmy does and obviously Grant Page, the renowned stuntman, does in the film. One of the thrills of a modern audience to going back to these is seeing stunts done, without the ability to take out cables, to take out cords and things that they're using, and crash mats, and doing it on a green screen and everything that they do today. It's one of the thrills of it. And you think of some of the high climbs and the work at the very end where he's breaking into George Lazenby's apartment or offices, and he's all the way up the top there, and you feel the lump in your throat because you kind of know that he had to be doing it, to some extent.
Yeah, it's interesting. Having seen the film many times with an audience, that climbing sequence causes a sudden quieter atmosphere. People are breathing differently or something. You can hear a pin drop. There is a genuine sense, oh my God, these guys are climbing, or even whether it's a stuntman or whether it's the star, they're actually climbing up that drain pipe, and they could fall and die. And I guess the same kind of thrill people get from sort of watching high-speed Formula One,
Yeah, of course.
So you kind of you hold your breath at times. So I could really feel the change in the atmosphere of the audience when I saw it at the Karlovy Vary Film Festival, where it was screened as the midnight movie in front of a packed house, and by that I mean it was a 1,000-seat theater, and they had provided it with Czech subtitles,
right.
That when that climb started, there was just a sudden hush, so you're right. It is, seeing is believing. When that door blows off the car and lands about 20 feet away from me.
Yeah.
That really, that looks like a big explosion.
Right, exactly. Well, because it's not planned that the door comes flying towards the camera, I presume. That just happened.
No, it wasn't planned. Today, digitally, they would take that door and make it fly. I wanted to have the car blow up with the Ayers Rock, or as it is now known, Uluru, and perhaps should always have been known, because after all, it was a sacred site to the Aborigines, but they weren't very well treated around about the time that I made the film. And only a few years before were they considered worth counting in the Australian census. But that's another story.
Yes.
Anyway, I wanted to obviously do the photographically pleasing thing as having the rock in a perfect formation in the back of frame and the car blowing up in the foreground. And we consulted with our stuntman who rolled the car and was also the pyrotechnic guy to blow it up, Ian Jameson. And so based upon what he told us about the explosive charges, we moved our camera position back and then foreshortened on the lens to still get the same frame that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And the one error that we made, which I think everyone has taken care of in Australian stunt work ever since, was to wire the doors to a solid piece of the frame. So even if you put a 10-foot cable on the door, it can get blown off, but it will only go as far as you want it to, as far as where it is safe, and you can still get the effect that you want. So that was a lesson learned, and we had no tradition of making action movies since World War II. There were some American movies that came to Australia occasionally, and they generally brought their own stunt team. But the Australian film industry had been virtually killed by foreign-owned theatres who said basically, we'll make them, you'll show them. There were studios, Pinewood Studios in England and 20th Century Fox in America basically kind of dictated when an Australian film could play in the theatres they controlled, because the best playing time always went to their movies.
Yeah. And where does The Man from Hong Kong fall in that resurgence of homegrown Australian movie making?
Well, I guess it sits a little out of the mainstream. I think everyone wanted to make films about Australian culture. Sunday Too Far Away, about a famous sheep shearers strike that was quite an event and did eventually lead to better conditions for the shearers. That was a noble film and interesting, docudrama almost. It also showed Jack Thompson's talents, but it was not something that anyone in the rest of the world, other than an art house audience or what I would call now a Channel 4 audience.
Yes.
They, and I love Channel 4. Whenever I have been in England, I love to see it. But British television is the best in the world, and there's no doubt about it. And The Crown, God, isn't that magnificent? Anyway, I digress. None of these, some of these early films, Picnic at Hanging Rock, brilliant film. It made the career of Peter Weir, and he's a genius. They were pleasing to Australian audiences, but had very limited releases, and with notable exceptions, I suppose. Picnic at Hanging Rock did get quality art house release in most countries in the world, particularly as Peter's fame grew.
Yes.
It was a desire to make films about us, about our society, our culture, our politics, etc. And that was that was the sort of more high-minded approach that attracted a lot of filmmakers who felt that they wanted to use film as an engine for social change, which I applaud. I thought in a slightly different way that if we're to have an Australian film industry, it's got to be self-sufficient. It can't be totally funded by federal or state handouts. It's got to make its mark in the commercial marketplace. And then if we can develop a reputation for making, meat and potatoes films, mainstream films that aren't necessarily as sophisticated as some of these early Australian films were in their intellectual content. I mean, Devil's Playground was a great film, and there were many of them made by Australian filmmakers who went on to find careers. I thought I want to make things that are commercial everywhere in the world and will draw eyeballs to Australia. And co-productions would be are a very good way of having two privileged markets to recoup your cost. You have someone in one country who has got reasonable confidence that even if it's a bad film, they won't get badly hurt and they can get their money, their investment back out of the territories they control. And you have, the same situation applies to the other partner in the co-production. Yeah. You spread the risk. So part of my political game plan, I suppose, with The Man from Hong Kong was to show that co-productions can work. It wasn't the first co-production in Australian history. There were co-productions that Lee Robinson made with a French company. and shot in Tahiti and in Australia. There were a couple of films in the, I think, in the late 50s and early 60s that he did. I actually forget their name at the moment. But he did a co-production with France, and that was good. So I had worked out that basically action is the universal currency of the movie market worldwide.
Yes.
A good car chase, a good punch-up will sell to an audience. There's an audience for it from Argentina to Alaska, from Hong Kong to Stockholm. Though generally in Stockholm it gets heavily cut because they were concerned about movie violence.
Right.
And Hong Kong did not get much of a release initially, and it was banned because it is so full of physical combat that. Well, how do you really, make it less violent?
Right. Well, the whole point of the movie is that he is a destructive force. So if you remove that, then and also it's also one of those films that has it doesn't shy away, even sometimes in the balletic and sort of cartoonish one man against 50 action sequences. It doesn't shy away from bloodletting. There is if someone gets stabbed, they bleed, which is, I know that sounds odd now, but there are plenty of movies where people get stabbed and you see no blood now. Doesn't happen
that's
anymore.
true. Well, the desperate desire to get a PG-13 rating, and I made quite a study of blood actually over the years, in fact, I should actually write about it, but. What is allowed, what is considered, what in England would be a U certificate level of blood.
Yeah.
Always granted, much more leniency was granted to historical spectaculars. I was delighted that Zulu was awarded a U certificate in the UK in 1964.
Yeah.
That was great. I thought the level of blood for a general audience film was remarkable. But they knew that this film needed to get its money back. And it was a British film, and the censor just was a little bit more lenient with Zulu than. And now, when you couple it with the sort of political incorrectness of the film, now it's an interesting film to watch, and big influence on me for the staging of battle scenes. And if you look at the Siege of Firebase Gloria or the two battle scenes in Sahara, you'll see they're very Zulu influenced. I got into trouble for too much blood, or as Raymond he saw rushes of me early in the piece that we shot Australia first, rushing out of the Martial Arts Academy, which the corridor was in Australia, the academy was a set in Hong Kong.
Right.
I'm rushing out, having been punched through glass, and I got blood streaming down my face and down my arm, and I go, punch, this silly device of having something that you can actually stop the elevator.
Right.
I know. I did write this too. Guilty as charged.
Oh, it's fine. We just assumed that was something all elevators in Australia had. That's
absolutely yes. The world knows nothing about the strange gizmos they have in Australia, and
also if you're already caught up in it, the suspension of disbelief is such that if that happens, so we can move on to the next action sequence, you don't really think too much about it.
Yeah, I was hoping that by that stage, people had sort of got the sense of humor of the piece, and that there was a subtext of satire of, the sort of thing that happens in the, when I was growing up, they're called thick ear thrillers.
Yes.
And then that became the Kung Fu picture, but that was before people knew that there were great films made in Asia. It was a conscious decision to ratchet up the blood Now, so Raymond Chow saw those dailies and just sent a message down, too much blood, because he was having some problems with the Singapore censor over excessively violent Hong Kong films. Run Run Shaw had this great director, Chang Che, who you look him up, you'll see a string of really amazing films, including many Tarantino favorites. And his first assistant was John Woo, and so John Woo learned from the best. But Chang Che pushed the envelope to get people to come back to the theaters to see these Wuxia movies, and so he put blood into kung fu and to sword movies. Firstly, sword movies, but then they were replaced by kung fu, and he would have people slashed by swords, and he would have their chest, let's say, pre-cut and pre-blooded, and then they would be spun round towards the camera after the slash occurred, and things like that, standard tricks of the trade. And we did that in the Martial Arts Academy with Jimmy slashing this guy with this chopper, and he had a little vial of blood in his hand, the victim, which he timed to squirt upwards with the slash, and so that the slash occurs, and a microsecond later, the squirt of blood comes up from into the frame, and when you put a good sound effect on that, then that can be quite effective. So that's a moment in the audience where I detect a kind of ooh. But that's I like that. That's clever. And so, I kind of know what the audience wants anyway. So I did make it a little too bloody, and so it had censorship problems in some places. And in Australia, of course, it was restricted to the over 18s, which probably cost it maybe a couple of $100,000 at the Australian box office. So, I was not popular for sticking to my guns and saying, I want it this way. I don't want it Bowdlerized. I don't want it. I want it to be, out there a bit, because that'll make it last. Because standards, violence is going to be progressively, censors are going to become more lenient. I'm watching the trend. I'm watching how action scenes have been cut in England from American movies, and what they're cutting and how they're cutting less and less, and so on. So the curve is in the direction of greater creative freedom. So try and make something a little bit ahead of the curve, because in 5 years' time, this will not seem so violent.
Yeah.
So that was my thinking, and in the short term, I paid for it. In the long term, I was right, because the Blu-ray is gets it is seen really now as a it's Tom and Jerry with some bloodstains.
Right.
It's Tom and Jerry violence. That's all. It's cartoonish.
Yeah. But let's just quickly talk about the cast a little bit. You've got former James Bond George Lazenby, and someone who would become, I would imagine, a national treasure in Australia in Bill Hunter, because he is in every Australian movie at a certain point. Like, he certainly becomes a national treasure in that sense. So the casting of those two, what was interesting about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was introduced to the leading actors of the day. Once the film was greenlit, and, this is really going to happen? Oh, okay. And I was introduced to a number of actors who had been in a film for which I made the trailer, Stone, and I made a behind-the-scenes documentary about Stone that was played on Australian television. I think it's actually on the last sort of Stone DVD that was released. They should do a Blu-ray, really. So you often cast from films that you are currently seeing at the time. If you're from the talent pool that's available to you, if I have to make a film in Canada, I look at the Canadian credits of the supporting actors and try and find what they've been in and get a sense of them in a performance ahead of the audition, because it's very hard. Auditioning is hard for a lot of actors, so you've got to try and get a better perspective, get a sense of overview before someone comes in for a cold reading. Anyway, but so I got to meet a few of them socially. My first meeting with Hugh Keaysburn was when I came with my cameraman to the set of Stone, and it was the big sort of mass bikie fight or outside the pub that we're doing. And there's Hugh looking, and I knew that the director, Sandy Harbert, had hired not only actors, but also genuine bikers to be his biker gang. And they were all going to fight later. And indeed, as you learn later from Sandy and the commentary, things got a little bit out of hand, But anyway, there's Hugh Keaysburn, and I realize he's one of the actors, I think, but I'm not sure. And I go up to him, and he's got a sheriff's badge, which I certainly was going to borrow one day, and a button with an illustration on it of a drunken cat holding a cocktail glass up, and with the message, "Happiness is a tight pussy." That was my first introduction to Hugh, and I wasn't quite sure, because he was very much in character. He stepped towards me with a slightly, threatening posture, okay, you sort of, media guy, camera guy, okay, just don't fuck with me. And it took me a few moments of conversation to find out, in fact, he was an actor.
Yeah.
So, he thought I was a news crew, and he wanted to monster the news crew. Yeah. But that was my meeting with Hugh, and I thought, okay, he's got something. And then my very first film I made with stuntmen like Grant Page, and amongst the sort of support stunt team was Roger Ward, who was an actor in his own right, but he was also a guy who liked to work doing anything. He'd work on sets, or he'd work as an actor. And it was a wonderful thing about the Australian film industry back in the day. Yeah. Something that, I haven't made a film in Australia for a while, so not since Drive Hard, obviously. But before that, not for, quite a few years. So, 2001, 2012, 2014. So there was a gap in between. And so I don't know how the film culture has changed in Australia at all. But certainly the days in which we were all just trying to make something, they were very exciting, and people were very collaborative. If you found yourself shooting at the same time as another movie and you wanted to share an actor, nobody got precious. We'll make it work somehow that we can both have this actor. So that was the way it was. It was nice. But
it's the odd side of when you have all the unions, people are looked after, but they also kind of mean that sort of sharing and that sort of wearing many hats and, working whatever, that kind of stuff goes out the window, because obviously the unions are more strictly controlling, I guess, what people can do and when they can do it.
Yeah, and I can understand that, because I'm a social justice person, really. But it was kind of a different era in the early 70s. It changed, I think, around 78, 77, 78. it became much more of a business, and you could certainly there were people who you could say were exploited, working for nothing. I paid all the support team on the stuntmen $50 a day, and that wasn't. That's it's probably closer to $200 a day, I suppose, by today's standards. But I always paid people or got them into a paid job as a result of what they've just done for me.
Right.
And so, because that's the only way to, obviously build a relationship in a film community. You've got to be fair to people and make sure that they're rewarded for going that extra mile for you. But so Roger Ward was one of the support team in the stunt arena, and he was also a writer. He'd actually written some episodes of a television cop show in Melbourne, and he was one of the. He'd been hired as an extra on Mutiny and the Bounty. He was you'll find him somewhere, and in there's one of the seamen on the Bounty. He just happened to be there in Tahiti, and so they hired him. He had a very interesting career, Roger, and I love him. And we talk from time to time in Australia, so I wanted him, and I thought, well, he and Hugh Keaysburn would be an interesting. Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, and do their own. And I encouraged them to, develop their personas to bring to the to each scene.
Yeah.
And if they had an idea that would make it funny, then let's do it. And it was Hugh's. The moment Hugh saw the water. The water fountain at the airport, where we were going to do the little walk and talk about, the guy who's the Fang Sing Leng coming in from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
He saw an opportunity for a joke, and said, "Can I do this?" And I said, "Hey." Yeah, great. So that's by then, I think the audience knows, okay, I think they're having a bit of fun with us. They're not taking this too seriously. They're doing things in a slightly offbeat way. I get it. So, it generally, it sort of takes more or less to know that that's the way it's going. Perhaps, some people may get the message earlier. I don't know.
So when you are approached by Umbrella, or however that worked, to put together not just this movie with a wonderful remastered, all the bells and whistles, special features and everything, but also to include 5 more documentary features, essentially, right, on the special features of the Umbrella disc. What was that process like, and what did you feel about having all these available on Blu-ray for the first time? Yeah,
A Man from Hong Kong is 4K, but the others are standard def.
Yeah.
Because the masters that I have for them, there are no... It would not be economically feasible to go back to the Death Cheetahs color reversal Internet and retransfer it to Blu-ray when it was a 16 millimeter blow up to 35 in the first place.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be preserved, and I think Blu-ray has a long life ahead of it. Hey, things may go up to 6K, 8K, 20K, who knows? But I think the Blu-ray standard and the quality that is on your screen as a result of the number of pixels is a pretty good benchmark, and people will. It will last. It won't die like VHS.
No, and I think what's been interesting about companies like Umbrella, Vinegar Syndrome, Blue Underground, Shout Factory, companies like that, is that it is these cult genre films that are actually not only are they getting a second life, but they're actually keeping these companies being able to release more and more content rather than the studio, the enormous sort of studio films that are cost prohibitive. So it's wonderful for us fans and wonderful for the film. No, it is
good. And they seem to pass the studios. Yeah, I mean, MGM didn't choose to do the Siege of Firebase Gloria Blu-ray. They passed it out to a small company like Olive. It's too small for them. And they'll let some other guy have a few, get something out of it. But yes, well, it's sore point because my percentage has been lost in a chain of bankruptcies, shall we say?
What on the Umbrella disc or on?
No, on Siege of Firebase Gloria.
Oh, on Olive.
The Umbrella disc is a wonderful deal that I've done with Jeff Harrison, who I think is a really clever film distributor. Let's say recorded entertainment distributor. Yeah. If you look at his library and how he is now marketing that library. When my last distribution license for DVD expired, I decided to look for somebody new who really understood what to do with retro product. And Jeff had good ideas and suggested that, in fact, why don't we do an omnibus edition? And that coincided. I obviously wanted all the films out. And I thought, but an omnibus edition is an excellent idea because maybe film students will look at this early career curve full of mistakes, full of good ideas, full of a certain screen persona that I bring to material that, even cookie cutter material. And, take a look at 42 films and see whether you agree. But here's some early work that is very flawed in many respects. But when you listen to the commentaries, and if you're really a super geek genre film student, there's some things to be derived from watching this as an educational process. So what's that education worth? Okay, it's worth a Blu-ray of a movie that's very entertaining to play to your friends and have parties, from Hong Kong parties, of a whole bunch of people, having fun watching the movie on your 50-inch screen. But the others, they're all, they all have their interest, particularly if you're a struggling filmmaker trying to make your movie on a cell phone. There's things to be learned from it, even though the technology was radically different back in the day. So I thought, vanity being what it is, I think I have something to teach. If people can see the whys and wherefores of the flaws and the whys and wherefores of the things that really work in all of the films. Each of them have things that really work well and are interesting to watch 50 years later.
Yes, definitely.
For Jeff to suggest to put it all in one package, I think was a brilliant idea because I believe it will have longevity of shelf life.
Yeah, and there were films like Stunt Rock and the Death Cheaters and things like this that, if they had been available, it was either in sort of Australian versions that were sort of very cost prohibitive to kind of bring over to the US or the UK or wherever you lived, or they didn't exist at all, or they were back on VHS. They weren't out there in a way where, for $30 you can go on Amazon, buy it, get the set, and like you say, it has a wonderful 4K of the main feature, which is an incredibly enjoyable and entertaining feature. But then you get all these wonderful archive oddities that for someone like myself and for a lot of fans and movie students, as you say, are fascinating as well and show a period in filmmaking that doesn't have an equivalent today. And that's what's fascinating for us, and we love that.
Well, that's good. I wish it could have. Had Hospitals Don't Burn Down, but Arrow have that with Dead End Drive-In.
Right.
Arrow and Umbrella share my first independent film, the Stuntmen, and that's cool with both of them. And I hope Arrow are doing really well with Dead End Drive-In. It does seem to have got some very good response.
I think it really shook the industry up that Arrow came to the US and have done a series of US releases the way they have done. I get a lot of their releases for review, and they're tremendous. They always do a good package, but the fact that they now cover both the UK and the US is big news in kind of cult movie distribution. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it is good, but I have probably nothing other than the Love Epidemic. There's really nothing else I have from that early period, and I think the Love Epidemic has been double billed with with High Rollin'. I think Joseph Bottoms. On a double bill DVD in Australia, and will otherwise probably never see the light of day. But probably shouldn't. I don't know.
Because Turkey Shoot is out now. There's a wonderful special edition of Turkey Shoot and Dead End Drive-In, as you say. And is The Quest out yet? Has that been?
That, yes. Well, thereby hangs a tale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well. It's out on DVD in PAL in Australia. What I am working with Jeff Harrison of Umbrella to achieve is to get it out on Blu-ray, which he is prepared to fund. But we need to have access to the original materials, which are lodged at Screen Sound in Australia, in the national, at National Film and Sound Archive of Australia. However, the company that financed the film and owned the film lodged the interpos and soundtrack there, and then went broke. Their assets were sold to another company that also went broke, and that company was investigated by the Corporate Affairs Commission and formally wound up and its records buried. The position that the National Film and Sound Archive has taken is that only the person who signed the materials in can sign them out.
Right.
And that person cannot be found, cannot be identified. No one knows who he was. He could have been the courier that delivered them.
Right.
And this was back in the 90s. In the meantime, of course, the surviving producer who has been campaigning for this to happen he was the writer-producer, the wonderful Everett DeRoche. He contracted cancer and campaigned during his cancer treatment and for his film to be allowed to be seen, because it's locked in a vault. No one can get at it and update its technology. So he died without having that wish. He's entitled to a piece of the movie under his agreement with the financing company. He is the co-copyright owner of the film with another producer who has also died. He's prepared not to actually, he's prepared to waive any financial reward. But the bureaucracy, I guess, has decided, well, we can't take the legal risk that after all these years, someone would come out of the woodwork with paperwork that could demonstrate that they owned this movie. Because there's no such person. All the licenses across the world for Frog Dreaming have expired. When I had a conversation with Harvey Weinstein who used to release it as The Quest in the United States on VHS before Miramax was absorbed into Disney and then, went its own way eventually. He said, I'd love to get that movie back for home video. God, I'd love it. I could do really well with that. And I've said, I'm working on it. It's been 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years I have been trying to get this to happen. And, someone, the fear of litigation. Will trump, let's say, a dying author's wish.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. But we're not giving up. And, if there was a copyright dispute, why is nobody in Australia, where you'd think the inheritors of the assets of the production company would be living, to the best of my knowledge. No foreign company bought those assets. But why in the years that this PAL DVD has been out, has no one said, "Hey, wait a minute, that's my movie. What are you doing?"
Right.
Because
exactly.
But the bureaucrats, they're not really thinking of the larger picture. And they're not really thinking as protectors of the arts. They're thinking of protectors of their arse.
Right. Sadly, that is the way bureaucrats go. However, onto a more positive thing, the release of is it your first novel?
It is my first novel, The Headman's Daughter.
The Headman's Daughter, and that came out last year, is that correct?
Yes, unfortunately, yes, last year. There's a new year.
Yes.
I wish it could have stayed 2016, preferably October 2016.
Well, don't we all? Yes, but
yes, indeed. I published it in the middle of the year, and it is, it's got a lot of nice reviews on Amazon. Not all written by my friends. There's some. There is a reviewer of new books whose site Third Scribe has written a very good review of The Headman's Daughter. Have you seen the trailer that we made?
I haven't. No.
Well, maybe you should Google Amazon, The Headman's Daughter, or the Headman's. Go to YouTube, The Headman's Daughter trailer. And that kind of encapsulates for what I hope is my fan base the reason why they should see it, which is if you like these movies that I've made, Man from Hong Kong, BMX Bandits, Dead End Drive-In, Turkey Shoot, and so forth, if you like those movies, then you will enjoy this book because it is a multi-twist, high-action content thriller that also has some political subtext, particularly, unfortunately, more and more relevant given what has, the nervous breakdown the American political system has suffered in November. So it has political subtext, but doesn't actually get in the way of it being a ripping yarn. And it also has a strong female protagonist, and I always like those books. And once upon a time, it was a screenplay idea that I had, and then I wrote it as a spec script and called it The Executioner's Daughter. And it was optioned twice for actually quite good money in the day. And that was sort of 10 years ago. But we could never get Keira Knightley or Scarlett Johansson or any of the young rising stars who could carry a movie, whose star name can carry a movie. We could never get them, we could never get one to say yes to an independently financed film when they're getting lots of studio offers. And finance was not available unless you could get an actor who was on the studio level. It's catch-22. It's how so many films that are worthy actually don't get financed. But And they end up on a list called the Blacklist, which is the best unproduced screenplays in Hollywood, and then years and years later, eventually they become movies. Gradually, the people do make these movies that went on the Blacklist, simply because they were. It's a badge of pride. These are scripts that were misunderstood. That. Yeah, and then eventually people discover them and make them. But I wouldn't say that The Headsman's Daughter is necessarily a candidate for the Blacklist. But anyway, I wrote it initially as a screenplay. It was well thought of, but no one would make it. So the rights revolved to me, and then I decided that I would write it as a novel. So I wrote it initially in 2009 as a novel, and then the publishing business was in disarray, and I couldn't get a publisher who wanted to take a risk on a new author because their best-selling authors weren't selling very well. Right. Since then, there's been a burgeoning of the self-publishing market. It's not just sort of vanity publishing. And so I thought, well, damn it, I'll have another go. This story is still gnawing at my liver. Alice can be, a franchise. Her adventures in the multiverse could be a franchise. Yeah. And to that end, actually, I have written a 1-hour pilot for a TV series of The Headsman's Daughter. And so we'll see whether anyone is interested in that. But in the meantime, I thought, let's get the book out. Let's see, what people think of it. And I'm very gratified by the good reviews from independent sources on Amazon that basically say this is a page turner. If you like a page turner, you will get something out of this. So anyway, The Headsman's Daughter is, I think a fun read, and particularly for people who I think it's female friendly, and I think let's say I feel I've got good feedback from a female audience and their discussion of Alice and Jane.
You had put up an interview you had done with another show about it, and that's what alerted me to it. And I thought that as we were talking about The Man from Hong Kong, I would love to find out about the book. So, of course, I can, get it on Amazon and read it myself. But no, it was more just to find out from you all about it and to tell other people about it so that they go and do the same. Yeah. That was the plan.
Well, they promised them a page turner. I don't know, it's certainly a good Kindle read, and you can knock it over in a weekend.
Yeah. And it's great. It's great, especially because you're coming at it from a filmmaker with a very fan-heavy past. That people love your movies, and like we were saying, there's all these collector Blu-rays and DVDs and things that are out there, with more to come. It's interesting on a system like Amazon, therefore, that if someone is looking at Turkey Shoot and looking at the Siege of Firebase Gloria, that they will also find this book because it's all in there together. And I think that's a great way to cross-promote everything, in this new way.
That's having made over 100 trailers for theatrically released films over the last, I think since I started making promos in 67 and theatrical trailers in 68. But I don't make them anymore, though I often do little sort of montages of a film I've just shot. I'll quickly put together a 1-minute music cut image, like a piece with intercut titles, just to give the distributor a sense of what he's going to be getting when I've finished editing the film, because I am concerned with my audience. I am also concerned with my readership, which I have yet to find a way to master economically viable promotion for a self-published book. But every day, every week, people on Kindle are buying it, and quite a few printed copies. After the initial flurry, there's still a few printed copies going out every few weeks. So it's developing a following. These kind of books, they tend, if you write a second one, then people always want to buy the first one, and they want so what a lot of this marketplace wants is a continuity.
Yeah,
so it's something I have to think about, because I have so many things that I want, I'm still working on 3 projects that I would hope will get funded, so it's, you can only divide yourself into so many pieces, but
and that's another big issue. I have 2 friends of mine who in the last 4 or 5 years have become authors. One with an established publisher in London, and another one who has been self-publishing / internet publishing with an actual internet publisher group out of Canada, and both of them have found, as I do with my website and podcast and so on, that you can spend 24 hours a day marketing on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all these places, and not have any time to get any real work done, and still find it difficult to grab a big audience, and every single social marketing manager I've ever come across will tell you a completely different way to do it.
I've been reading them all, and been very careful about what I. $50 here, $100 there. Very careful about how I promote it. But it's a long-term residual asset. I'll think of it that way, because you could make, you could make a graphic novel out of it. You could make a manga out of it. You could, do it as a video game. You could, there's so many ways in which this concept of which is basically Game of Thrones meets Jason Bourne on Freaky Friday with the potential of Quantum Leap. If you're going to put it into strictly genre terms, then that would be a way that I would describe The Headsman's Daughter. But I wrote it with my my obsession with pace, which I try to practice in my films, even the ones that I'm just a hired hand. But pace is important. The audience wants, they don't want to be ahead of the picture. So, give me something happening that I need to know, or that I'll be very satisfied from let's say a suspense sequence or an action sequence. Give me something regularly, as well as good characterization and motivation. So I applied the same techniques that I've done in the films that I've pioneered, which is to cut to the chase. Okay, now time to cut to another chase, or cut to a surprise. And The Headsman's Daughter does have, I'm told by the readers, a few jaw-dropping moments where you think, oh my God, I see. And then maybe you do, and maybe you don't. Maybe there's another one round the corner. So it's for Ozploitation fans, it's kind of a well-written, a much more, let's say, a piece of entertainment that's a little bit more literate than the films of mine that people have seen. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. But I'm quite gratified by the response that I've had. And let's hope it will catch on. But there are thousands of books getting self-published every month, so it is a crowded marketplace. But I'm going to be very careful about how much I spend. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see how it builds, and wait till someone comes to me and says, "I really want to make a film," or better still, a high-end Netflix series out of this.
Right, and that it might be one of those things where it starts off as a book series, becomes a TV series, then there's a movie. Like these things happen, and it only has to be a couple of guys somewhere who discover it, who have the means, and you could be off to the races. So you never know.
You never know.
And I hope so, because if nothing else, I hope it continues to be a book series or something that you can continue to develop and enjoy, and that's always a thrill to have more work coming out, Brian. It's always something we'll support.
I am right. I'm slowly chipping away at my memoirs. I haven't gone very far. I'm still in my school days, but they were interesting.
Yeah.
I got to visit Dr. No. I got to visit the set of Beckett, things like that when I was 16 and 17.
Yeah.
And so, I'm slowly chipping away at that. I'm amassing research on censorship worldwide. I'd like to contrast my battles with censorship with, interesting anecdotes of censorship all over the world.
Yeah.
I just chip away at these things as well as the various projects that I'm attached to. And in fact, there's another script that came in from New Zealand where a producer is interested in whether he's still he's still got to put the financing together, but he wonders whether I'm interested, and I will, when this interview is over, I will read it and respond.
Excellent, Brian. Well, look, thank you ever so much again. You're always so generous with your time and your stories.
I hate chat.
Sorry, sir?
I hate a chat, as you know.
No, I love it. Both times you've been on the show, it's been fascinating. It's been funny. It's a joy for a film geek like myself. So thank you so much for friendship and support and so on Facebook. It's wonderful. Thank you.
I'm delighted to provide. Okay, well, have a nice night. I guess it's
I'm off to make
21.
I'm off to make dinner. Anything to warm this place up.
Yes. Well, I will be making dinner for my wife too.
Excellent. All right. So, well, all the best, and keep in touch, and all the best for the future.
Thanks, John. Bye-bye.
Your guide to cinema etiquette from the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews podcast. Tip 43.
When attending the cinema with your good friends or significant other, don't assume anyone else has any interest in what you have to say. So, always remember...
Whisper, fuckface! It's not rocket science. For more useful cinema etiquette, join Paul and Wayne on the Countdown Movie and TV Reviews podcast at Podomatic on iTunes or your favorite podcast app.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
This podcast takes no shortcut in producing outstanding content. How they haven't become more widely recognized is beyond me.
I love this show. Smart commentary, in-depth interviews, and great production.
It's obvious how serious these guys take their podcast and bring that next level of professionalism that anyone would be hard-pressed to match.
The Projection Booth Podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
News on the march!
The year 2014. Two best friends set out on a journey to produce the best content related to all things film. In 2015, they founded a podcast to share their passions with the world. From rants, lisps, and beer to trailers, challenges, and premieres, Nick and Justin have you covered. Find the Epic Film Guys podcast at epicfilmguys.podbean.com and follow the show on Twitter. And we'll see you at the movies.
Well, coming up next on the show is our discussion of The Man from Hong Kong. Me and Mr. Jim Wallace, as usual, in a diner somewhere in New York City, talking film as always. But before then, just remember, if you like what you hear and you want to keep us going, we have website payments coming up. We have renewal payments coming up. We have all sorts of stuff that we have to keep plowing money into, both on the website and for uploading. So please, if you do feel like helping us out, head over to patreon.com/ After Movie Diner. That's Patreon, patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or, of course, you can always rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and wherever podcasts are found. Every tiny little thing helps. Lastly, you can always go over to aftermoviediner.com and bookmark the website as Amazon.com on your PC, so that when you go to purchase something on Amazon, you click through our website and through the banner that's on our website, and it costs you absolutely nothing, but Amazon gives us a tiny kickback of whatever you order. So please bookmark aftermoviediner.com as Amazon.com on your computer, and every time you shop online, which I'm sure is probably every week because you're just like the rest of us, shopping with other human beings is hell, so I'm sure you're shopping online as usual. Click through our website first and we make a few pennies on the deal. So they're the ways you can help and support the After Movie Diner. If you want to have any more information, go over to aftermoviediner.com and click on Support Us, and all the information is there. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying this fantastic Brian Trenchard-Smith, Man from Hong Kong special spectacular. On now to our conversation about the film with Mr. Jim Wallace. Hello and welcome to this episode of the After Movie Diner.
I think you really got that down, by the way. There's urgency.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
urgency,
Like, keep listening.
Yeah.
But also happiness,
right.
contentment to be here where we are doing what we're doing.
It's another episode. It's the next
but
episode.
a little bit teasing.
Tantalising.
Right. So it's all going on.
You get all that from my voice. Just saying hello and welcome to the After Movie Diner.
It's all
podcast.
there, mate.
It's all we got it. We got it licked. We got it licked.
Yeah.
It's only
Just stop it there, mate.
What are we? 200.
Thanks very much for listening.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night. Done.
Yeah.
Boom. All right then.
I like your Nightmare on Elm Street scarf.
Thank you. That was given to me many years ago by a lady who
by
I
a
used
dream.
by a dream I had when I was at university. No, by a lady that I went to university with.
Nice lady?
A friend. Yes, we worked in the Antelope together behind the bar.
Oh, that's nice.
Nikki.
It's nice that you didn't end up going out with her and then it all went horribly wrong.
Right, which was usually
that was your pattern.
That was usually my pattern. Yeah, it was. So anyway.
Sorry, you took you from jollity to the bleak disappointments of your past.
As you've already guessed, ladies and germs, we are speaking tonight with returning champion Ray Jim Wallace, who is back on the show.
Hello.
After the holidays.
After a Christmas absence.
After the Christmas and New Year absence, and we are back in the Kellogg's Diner in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, which is on Lorimer. What are you looking at?
Every time the door opens, I'm getting like a horrible draft.
Oh no!
All right, fine. It wasn't that bad.
Oh, a little bit drafty.
Well, I'm just saying it's a huge diner and there's lots of seats.
All right.
Just sit somewhere else.
No, because I like you miserable.
All right,
I like the fact that every time someone comes through the door, you're going to pull a face.
Yeah.
As if someone just stabbed your first
halfway through my dubious psychological breakdown of people's inner motivations.
Mm-hmm.
I'll shut the fuck up.
And on this...
Will there be a petition to the diner for more drafts?
For more drafts.
Please sit Jim in more drafts.
Yes, please.
He seems to say less.
He seems to say less.
Like this.
Well, no, you're not saying less. What you're doing is saying a lot more and being quite miserable about everything.
Yeah.
Do you want to swap sides?
No, I'm fine.
Do you want to swap sides?
No, I'm fine.
Bloody hell. Already this has been capsized.
We haven't even talked about what the movie is
yet. Torpedoed and
Tell them what the
capsized
movie is. Tell them what the movie
by
is.
your madness.
Sorry.
And your so anyway, we've got the wonderful Jim Wallace back on the show, who's not at all driving me nuts.
In huge quotation marks.
Huge quotation marks. We're back in the Kellogg's Diner in Williamsburg, Lorimer area. It's wonderful. It's splendid. I like the disco fries here, so I'm looking forward to putting them in my gob. And Jim is, as always, going through the exceptionally noisy and crackly menu. That always, like, I hear it on the show, and I'm like, what is that when I'm editing? And then I realise it's that bloody
Jim
crackly
menu.
Just pick what you always have. Some grotesque rap that halfway through you go, God, I wish I'd ordered something else.
So why would I do that then?
Because that's what you do every time.
I know, but I don't want to
You're
do
like,
it this time.
why if I look up something
because
that's
some
named
things are
after...
good. Some things are good. The Midnight Crave is good.
Right, yeah, you
And
look up
the
something that's
brisket
named after
tacos is
some
good.
mad thing.
Brisket
Like,
tacos
this was a book by Robert Louis Stevenson, so maybe I'll order something named after that.
I might...
Or maybe
I am actually that pretentious, aren't I?
Yeah, you are, yeah. Oh, look, they've got a...
Pause for the shocked expression.
They've got a baked potato named after an obscure Oscar Wilde poem. Let's go.
I probably would order that.
Yeah, you probably would. Yeah. Well, anyway, lots of things. Lots of things. Completely lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah.
A movie. We're here to talk about a movie.
All right. So, the movie this week on the After Movie Diner is Brian Trenchard-Smith's The Man from Hong Kong.
Man from Hong Kong.
Nobody is safe from the Man from Hong Kong.
Listen, there's a Chinese cop in town. He's beginning to annoy me. Yeah, I think he should meet with a slight accident.
Jimmy Wong Yu is the Man from Hong Kong. A furious arsenal of martial arts, with his sights set on smashing organized crime.
In my country, Caroline, we have a sport. We take the giant praying mantis, put him in the wooden cage, and make him fight for his life with his own kind. I thought you would enjoy such a sport.
You and Jack Wilton in a wooden cage. He's a very dangerous man.
George Lazenby is Jack Wilton. Gunrunner, dope peddler, ruthless czar of international evil.
I've never met a Chinese yet that didn't have a yellow streak.
East meets West in a head-on clash with no holds barred. Golden Harvest, who made Bruce Lee a box office smash, have joined with Australia's action specialists to produce a death-defying spectacle that staggers the senses. The Man from Hong Kong knows no rules. Everyone he runs across is never quite the same again.
I understand the gunman is dead. How did that happen? I killed him. Really? Well, in that case, you deserve a cigar. Thank you. I don't smoke.
Tell me, Inspector, do you often take white girls to bed?
Only on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
This is nice.
What did you expect? Acupuncture?
So do yourself a favor and answer a few questions.
省点劲儿吧，被你妈来陪我，我也不会告诉你。
Yeah, and I love you too.
This is Australia, mate, not 55 days at Peking.
Hey, don't give me any shit.
Provoke him at your peril.
I want that lunatic stopped.
Nothing stands in his way. For long. Nobody's safe from the Man from Hong Kong.
Okay, so made in 1975, this was the first movie to be a joint production between Australia and Hong Kong.
Hands across the water.
So Australia brings out its big guns. You have director Brian Trenchard-Smith, of course. Grant Page, who is a famous Australian stuntman. It stars Yu Wang.
Please say my lord after that. From now on, you have to call me my lord for the rest of the podcast. What's his name?
Yu Wang, my lord. No, but literally, his name is Yu Wang, my lord. And he is known primarily for Master of the Flying Guillotine, which was obviously a big movie in the Hong Kong era. It's also known as The Dragon Flies in the US because...
No, fuck it, I'm getting on.
Don't know why. I mean, basically because Yu Wang, my lord. You're really going to laugh at that every time. Although, isn't it the other way around? Because in China, don't they put the last name in front of the first name?
It makes the joke not work, so I don't care.
You don't care. Yu Wang. Anyway, my lord. Was also in a movie called Dragon, so maybe that was it.
They've made some money.
And Dragon Flies, because in this he's always up on a kite, or he is in the end of the movie.
Not always, but frequently. Well, once. You ready to order? Hey, yeah.
I am, yeah.
Good, thank you. You ready? Yeah, can I get the Italian omelette?
And can I get the popcorn shrimp? And the disco fries?
Can I get chamomile tea? Yeah, and I don't need no hash browns for the omelette. Thanks.
Yeah, his full name is Jimmy Wang Yu, not Yu Wang. But he's Yu Wang, my lord, on IMDb. So we'll go with Yu Wang.
Yeah.
My lord. And so, yes, it marks the first Australian-Hong Kong co-production. One of the production companies on the Hong Kong side was Golden Harvest, the famous Golden Harvest that would make lots of Hong Kong action movies throughout the 70s. Co-produced with Hammer, the Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, awesome. Which we saw. I don't know if I told you, but we saw on the big screen of Nighthawk. Yeah. It was the American cut. It wasn't the...
Yes, the one where lots of scenes get repeated, right?
No, just the one where they took all the action scenes and edited them together and got rid of any plot or acting.
It's weird.
Yeah. So it's literally just like the thinnest of plots with all the action sequences strung together. It's about 85 minutes as opposed to whatever the other one was.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But yeah, so Golden Harvest, very well known. I mean, they even go into the 80s and come over here and do movies like China O'Brien with Cynthia Rothrock and stuff like that. So they by the mid to late 80s, they have, they've done Australian stuff, they've done British stuff, they've done American stuff. So they're a main player when it comes to martial arts movies. George Lazenby, of course, former James Bond, famous tall Australian actor and model, and apparently martial artist.
Thank you very much.
The movie also stars Bill Hunter, who is basically probably the biggest named actor who's come out of Australia in terms of in terms of a national treasure. He's not a named actor like Russell Crowe or Kylie Minogue or whatever, or Hugh Jackman or Guy Pearce or whatever. But he's a named actor in terms of he is literally in every single Australian movie that was made from the end of the 60s all the way through to the mid-80s. And so he's sort of a national treasure rather than being a big name.
Like Roy Kinnear?
Yeah, all right. Except Roy Kinnear is in considerably less movies than
well, it feels like Roy Kinnear's in every movie.
It feels like Roy Kinnear is. He's not, but it feels like he is. So that's your basic setup. But should people watch it?
I mean, yes. If you want to watch a fun, silly movie, kung fu movie set in Australia in the 70s, you should definitely watch this film.
Right, but there is definitely that caveat.
Yes, I mean, it's not like...
I think the big thing that people get is that if you like...
If the idea of watching a kung fu film, a silly kung fu film, a fun silly kung fu film set in Australia in the 1970s does not float your boat, then this is not going to change your mind.
No.
It is exactly
that
what it sets out to be.
Yes. You know, it's.
And if it came on Channel 4 at 1 a.m. and you couldn't sleep, then yes, you should absolutely watch it.
Yeah,
it's like
a mixture.
It's not Prisoner Cell Block H. It's not telling you to go to bed.
No,
because this is all there is.
We had this whole thing because one of the actors in the movie is from Prisoner Cell Block H,
which for us, growing up, it used to come on at 3 a.m, and it always came on.
It's a long-running Australian soap opera about a woman's prison.
Right. And it's
basically a lot of Sheilas wearing grey,
a lot of Sheilas looking grumpy.
Looking grumpy.
It was unbelievable. Here's the thing, right? They were all they all
it
wore
was
grey.
Orange was the New Black, but 40 years
they
ago.
all wore grey.
Yeah.
Every room was grey.
Yeah. So
they were all
was
grey-haired old women.
Yeah.
It was just it would come on. And you would know it's time to go to bed.
At
it was
4
like
in the
Blind
morning.
Date. When you were 14 and Blind Date came on, you're like, I've got to get out of the house.
Right.
It's Saturday evening.
Yeah.
I'm watching Blind Date.
Yeah.
It's time to leave. I
Right.
have to go and smoke cigarettes or drink cider or
Yeah.
get in trouble. But anything
but
other
watch
than-
Cilla Black.
And Prisoner Cell Block H would come on, and it was basically TV's way of saying there's nothing else on. This
Go to
is
bed,
it.
Spotty.
It's not getting better. Go to bed.
Go to bed, Spotty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what it was. It was the most.
Whereas this one, you should stay up for. It'll probably be followed by Prisoner Cell Block H.
Right.
But I would stay up for
Stay
this.
up for it. Yeah, so the man from Hong Kong, as you say, very 70s. If people remember, you have to cast your mind back. But we did a couple of Philippine movies from a similar era. Cleopatra.
Long time ago.
Yeah, they call her Cleopatra Wong and the One-Armed Executioner. This is certainly way more polished than either of those, but in a very similar vein in terms of.
I felt like I enjoyed this one, like I enjoyed those.
The silly end of the Hong Kong thing. And look, the other caveat we've got to say is, if you're more a Shaw Brothers fan, or if you're more a like a later Jackie Chan, Jet Li fan, this, and you come to this after those, you have to realise that this isn't going to have anywhere near the polish of those films. But I think it does match those films in exuberance and in stunts and in zany hijinks.
Yeah, my thing about let me run down the plot quickly because there's almost none.
Right. Okay. There are more montages in this than Rocky IV.
Yeah,
there's at least 4 more montages than Rocky IV.
There are quite a lot of montages. Like most
Rocky
of the
IV is
romance
all
is like
montage.
almost pure montage. Yeah.
In this movie.
Yeah, every romantic thing is a montage. The plot, right? So, Australian coppers, Australian coppers capture a drug-dealing courier from
played by
Hong
Sammo
Kong.
Hung,
right?
Who is world-renowned throughout martial arts.
All right.
But a very young Sammo
I'm just
Hung.
doing the plot. That's it. And we can talk about Sammo Hung later.
Yeah.
Australian
you
coppers.
my lord.
Australian coppers capture a drug dealing courier from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
In order to talk to him, they get a Hong Kong copper to come over.
To extradite him.
Yeah, to talk to him and to extradite him, but they wanted to talk to him first because they don't speak. They say, fine, we'll get someone that can talk to you.
Right.
But yeah, all right, to extradite him as well. Who comes over, but with his own agenda, who wants to take down the courier and whoever the courier works for, who is an Australian. And then he spends the rest of the movie going after the kingpin, who is George Lazenby.
And all his henchmen.
But that's the plot.
Yes. And it is a very simple but effective old chestnut of an action plot that is purely set up. Oh, that looks smashing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lovely, thanks.
So yeah, George Lazenby in a series of ridiculously 70s suits, mad hair, enormous mustache, and the occasional bout of insane martial arts from the old Lazenby.
Yeah. That was... Because it looked like it was him doing it as well.
It is him doing it. Yeah.
But not in a... I'm not sure about this kind of a way, but in a... Oh, yeah, I can do martial arts.
Yeah.
Because what was he before he became Bond then? He was a model, right? That was it.
He was a cigarette model. He was like the Marlboro Man of Australia.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Because he's very, like... Even in this, with his ridiculous 70s hair and his madness, he's like a striking chap on screen.
Yeah.
You know, he looks like 7 foot tall. He can wear any bloody clothes, no matter how ludicrous and like look cool in them. At one point, he walks in a green silken cravat, and I was a bit jealous, you know. And I've never been jealous of a man in a cravat. Well, unless it's Charles Gray, of course, who could also carry off a bloody
Roger
good
Moore
cravat.
occasionally will sport a cravat.
Roger Moore has occasionally sported a cravat. It's why I say that Lazenby was a very underrated Bond, really. They should have let him
Purely on the
walk...
cravat.
Yeah, on the cravat front.
My capsule review of the whole movie, like how I felt about it was, I really liked it. Apart from, I didn't like the leading lady.
Right.
And
Her out prisoner.
And the fight scenes were ridiculous. But all the other bits that weren't the fight scenes, the car chase, there was some really cool, like the thing where the way the rope fell down the building and him coming down the rope, and even the idea of like breaking into Lazenby's thing at the end using the windsurfing thing.
Yeah.
Not windsurfing thing. Whatever the fuck
kite.
it is. Yeah, kite.
Kite. Well, what's the paraglider, right?
Yeah, paragliding. Yeah. And
which apparently was all the rage in the 70s.
Yeah. But the
everyone was paragliding.
But the
you
fight
couldn't move
scenes,
for paragliders.
The fight scenes were ridiculous, and I did think these don't have the same. A lot of them didn't have the same fun, and there was less movement. I don't know, but like I felt like Trenchard-Smith was having a lot of fun with a lot of the movie. You know, there was. It looked pretty cool. He was trying new things, but the fight scenes where they just stuck him in the middle, and the camera pretty much stayed still, and then like 10 blokes in white pajamas attacked him. It was like, I don't know, it was really, it was dull and not very believable, and like laughably silly. Something.
Well, the biggest problem with that action sequence, which is when you're talking about, he gets into a fight at Lazenby's palatial waterside address during a party, because Lazenby goads him on into a fight.
No, not that bad.
And one of the dudes, hang on a second, one of the dudes has a dragon tattoo on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
He looks it up, finds out that that's actually a martial arts studio, which is where Lazenby gets all his hench people from, because we saw Lazenby earlier training a couple of the hench people.
So here's my question, right? What does he do? Does he exchange, like, free martial art club membership for occasional hench work?
I think so.
Is that the deal?
That's probably
because also, presumably room and board as well, because he turns up in the middle of the night and there's nobody there except Trenchard-Smith and his cameo.
Oh,
and then he rings a little
Trenchard-Smith playing
bell,
a stunt
and
cameo.
then, like, 10 blokes in, like, ready, kitted out in pyjamas crop up.
Yeah.
And I can't believe they're, like, there to, like, guard the martial arts studio.
No, they're there for a bit of fisticuffs should anyone show up.
What?
Yeah.
So he's got himself a hench...
That's why they're all in their pyjamas.
So he's got himself a hench school.
Uh-huh. It should
like
be...
a kind of a YTS scheme for henchmen.
It should be the George Lazenby School for Martial Arts and Occasional Henching.
Yeah, and henching.
And henching.
Martial arts and henching, yeah.
And one of the joys to be had from this movie is the ridiculous Australian stunt guys as hench people in the movie.
Yeah, it's the haircuts and the facial hair.
It's almost like Brian just was like, whatever you're wearing, lads, just show up. Because
yeah, it's fun.
There's a couple of sequences. There's the 4 guys who are, what are they, gardeners? They all show up with like different garden implements and attack him at the regatta.
Oh yeah, that was fun, yeah.
And then later on, when the guys are chasing them in the cars and on the motorbike, when they all get out to see if he's blown up or not, they're all wearing like ridiculous outfits, as if it was just like, whatever you're wearing, like, just show up. You'll be here at 9. And so the cinematographer, because one of the things that you can say, okay, so there are 2 things,
right,
that you can say are massive positives in this movie.
Yeah.
One is the soundtrack, which is 70s-tastic, including two what sound like written for the movie songs, sung by some bird. One which is a Bondish style song over the credits, which is all about being blown sky high. You've blown it all sky high. Blah, da, 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 da. Like, it's very Bondy, right?
Yeah.
There's one in the middle that is all like, I love you, and then it goes, a man is a man is a man.
Yeah, that one's called, I didn't have the time to finish the lyrics.
Yeah, so I'll just say a man
I
is
love you, darling, a man is a man is a man.
Yeah.
What will we have for tea? Yeah, that kind of thing.
So I go there, I feel like I went out and did a thing, but I didn't actually have
Personally, I think the biggest for me, the two positives of the movie are, I really like...
Well, let me just...
All right. Yeah, you're right. I should let you get your two out before I interrupt after one. You did stuff your face full of fries.
I did. They're all stuck together with cheese. The second positive is Russell Boyd's cinematography, which, even down to like random shots in the love montage later on, had some great angles and perspective, and just, I mean, it really is like the way he filmed that pipe. You know, that pipe he was doing like a crazy little like circus tricks on, and then she comes up out of the hole. Like the way the camera panned by it, the opening shots with the theme music, him panning across the Hong Kong police doing their martial arts training, and then the credits coming up in like big red and yellow letters. You can see hands down where Tarantino steals, 70% of his ideas from, just like the way that stuff is filmed. And to be fair to Tarantino, which I rarely am, but to be fair to him, he does list Trenchard-Smith as one of his like big influences.
Cool.
To say what you like about Trenchard-Smith, he makes a fun movie, and he knows how to put it up on the screen. Do you know what I mean?
So my two positives are, one, there's a lot of fun directing in it. I really like the car chase scene was terrific.
Yeah, the car chase is awesome.
It was a really good car chase, and there's not often you actually get. I mean, there's plenty of movies. I don't know how many car chases I've seen in my life, but clearly it's a lot.
Right.
And this one definitely stands out as being a really, really good one.
Yeah.
And I really like. There's lots of really nice touches. The rope coming out of the side. There's a bit when he punches the guy in the face, he punches the camera, and that's pretty cool. There's a bit where they walk out of the building and the camera's like underneath them, and one of the Australian coppers is really pissed off, and he like mimes, you just caused mayhem or whatever, and then he mimes it with a kick, and he kicks the camera, and it cuts. And there's lots of and jumping on the elevator to have a fight. Lots of really fun touches to it that happen all the way through the movie, enough to keep you interested and entertained.
Well, that's the thing.
The second positive for me.
The
second positive for me is I've always had a soft spot for movies that are like that want to use their location. They want to have a lot of fun with their location. So the Ayers Rock thing looked amazing. It was a really good opening. The guy waiting in the car, the opening shot, like the blue Ayers Rock at night, was amazing. And then having it change to day, and then the meat and then a chase up the side of Ayers Rock and a big fight. You know, it's brilliant, and all the
well, except
paragliding over Sydney Harbour and all that kind of stuff. I love all that.
So it it uses its Hong Kong and Sydney locations bloody well. It really does. In a way where you're like, I know this is picture postcard Sydney, but like it's pretty awesome.
But I like that not when they do that with like New York or London or places I've seen like a million times, but in the context of this movie, presumably people in America or whatever would have sat down and watched it and not seen Sydney before, don't know what it looks like.
Right.
Same with Hong Kong. And the people who are from Sydney and Hong Kong would be quite chuffed, I would think, to see their city up on the big screen, like LA or New York or Chicago or whatever. It's an elevating thing, and when they're having fun with it, when they're not being like pompous about it, it's just like, look at this great place we live in.
Right.
I like that. I like that when any movie does it, but this one does it really well.
So let's start then at the beginning of the movie, the Ayers Rock sequence.
Yeah.
Sammo Hung.
Who you wanted to talk about earlier, but I shut you down.
You did shut me down.
I didn't feel it was appropriate to discuss it at that point. Now
it's all right.
Now I've decided it's appropriate.
Well,
you have my blessing.
So it's well hung then.
That's what I do. I have like
Not as good as you Wang, but thank you. But we will allow it.
So Sammo Hung,
crack on.
He fights Blokey I mentioned earlier, who's like the Australian detective chappie.
Okay.
He's like the Roy Kinnear.
Right.
Of Australia.
Right.
Was your example.
Yes.
I think there's a better one.
Probably.
But
he's like the JT Walsh.
Yes, that's a bloody good example.
Thank you very much.
He is like the JT Walsh of Australian movie. Right. And just as cool and charismatic. Anyway, he fights with Sammo Hung on
He was
Ayers
good,
Rock.
I liked him.
And what's funny about that is, I understand if you've got like a helicopter and your partner's buggered off in the car and the helicopter's chasing the car and here's a policeman and he's chasing you, you might go, how about if I run up the rock? He's probably not likely to follow me. However, when he follows you, running up the rock, where's he going? Like, what does he hope to happen? I suppose kick him off the rock, I guess, but...
I guess the point is, if he manages to get down the other side...
Right.
Then there is like a large geographical feature, in the way. Because I don't know, but I'm going to guess it's mostly desert and then Ayers Rock is right in the middle of it. There's not a lot of,
right.
stuff around it. Can I just point out, by the way, that the driver of the car that's running from the helicopter falls into the classic Lethal Weapon escaping in a car from a helicopter trap, which is, if you just keep driving, you're totally fine.
Yeah.
You get freaked out by the helicopter, and in the case of Lethal Weapon, you just stop the car, get out and start running.
Right.
As if, that's the plan.
Right.
If I run, that'll be better than driving in the car away from the helicopter.
Right.
And in this case, he gets so freaked out, he just, rolls the car. Like, comes out of nowhere. He's driving along, helicopter's above him, rolls the car.
Yeah.
Literally on a flat road.
Well, he goes up a little bit on a little verge.
He just allows himself to get spooked by the helicopter.
There is...
Rookie error when being chased by
Don't...
drive slowly to your destination.
So anyone listening who's thinking of running away from a police helicopter, don't get spooked. Don't worry about it,
Do not get spooked. Drive slowly,
Just drive
carefully and calmly.
Because what can I do?
To the nearest place with a roof.
Wait.
A tunnel will do.
What if the helicopter has a machine gun? This one didn't, but I'm jumping forward a few years.
It was really bad.
Then you have to drive quickly.
Right. But still don't get spooked.
Then you're in trouble. But don't get spooked.
Don't get
This
spooked.
is the key.
However, there was clearly a default with some cars back in the 70s, because every single car that gets even slightly pranged in this movie explodes.
Yeah.
It's one of... And I have to say...
I'm all for this design for.
I am for this as well. Except the one at the end of the car chase that drives through the house and slowly falls apart, then explodes.
It does seem to disintegrate, doesn't it?
Yeah, the back falls off. The door's coming off first of all. Then as he's driving along, Yu Wang, my lord's fucking bonnet, hood comes flying off.
No, that was cool. You definitely got the impression when the bonnet comes off the car that just happened.
That
and
just
they
happened.
decided to keep
and
it
they
in.
were like, whatever. Like when the guy was walking along at the beginning, the hairy cop. Because you got normal cop, older cop.
Oh, yeah, with the cap.
And then you've got little hairy cop, and he's walking along, and he bumps into the motorbike. Did you notice that? Bumped into the motorbike's handlebars, really walloped him in the stomach. Kept walking, doing the scene, and then later he almost walks into a post.
That's dedication.
In the same scene.
Slash.
I think Brian Trenchard-Smith kept it in because it was a little bit funny.
Yeah. I'm sure you're probably right.
But you know, one of those things where it shouldn't be that painful, but it is, like getting a handlebar when you accidentally walk into a bike and you get like a handlebar and it wins you slightly.
Yeah.
It kind of looked a bit like that.
It's like my abiding memory of the Blair Witch Project is my friend Johnny that I went to see it with. We walked out of the emergency exit of the cinema at the end of the movie, and he walked right into bollock-height bollards. Like a walking pace. Right. He expected to keep moving, and the bollard had other ideas, particularly with regards to his testicles, and it was really painful.
I'm sure.
So painful, it basically wiped the experience of having watched the Blair Witch Project from my mind.
I kind of wish that happened to me.
Yeah, which is probably not the worst thing in the world, especially that it wasn't my bollocks on the line. They were adjacent bollocks.
Right, they were borrowed.
But it was enough of
course it was. Of course it was.
Wind through the teeth moment.
Take a man's breath away. And possibly his bollocks. So the two things I would like to bring back to modern filmmaking that I feel modern filmmaking sadly lacks, but I think three things I'd like to bring back to modern filmmaking that I think are sadly lacking, and that in this film were abundant.
Right.
To make films more exciting.
Yes.
In 2016, 2017.
2017. It's a bit later than 2016.
They need to do like the old 60s and 70s movies used to do. And if you've got your main character walking across a road, taking off in a plane, buying a new hat, whatever your main character is doing, support it with really loud funk music.
Yeah.
Or brass band music. Any music, really.
I'm down with that.
You remember when James Bond used to just like blow his nose and walk across the street and it'd be like dang, dang, dang.
Actually, that kept happening with Lazenby, didn't it? Every time Lazenby turned up, they did like a, this is a bit like Bond, but it is not Bond, please don't sue us.
No, but if you notice, everywhere Yu Wang, my lord, went, even, like, it was most notable.
It was true, yeah, when he
gets on a plane, and it's a Cathay Pacific plane, and he's taken off from Hong Kong, and all it is your typical plane taking off sequence. We've seen it in a million movies, right?
Right.
But this one had like, ba-da-ba-da-da-da, he's taking off in a plane, ba-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, every film should
even up to the bit where he was sneaking up to the 10th floor martial arts studio and he's studying the windows, there was like loud blaring funk music going on. He's looking at the windows, what will he do now?
Right.
That was cool.
They need to bring that back.
Yes.
They need to bring back the trait that every time a car so much as grazes something, it explodes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what and thirdly, mustaches.
And moustaches, yeah. And the hair was extraordinary as well. It was so unkempt.
It was.
I can only assume that the hairdresser was fired or had the flu for the shoot.
I don't think they wasted a penny on the hairdresser. I think Brian Trenchard-Smith went, we can have exploding cars or coiffured hair.
Yeah.
And he went, exploding cars.
Yeah, and that's fair enough.
And I think Lazenby probably went, don't worry, mate, I bring my own coiffeur.
Yeah.
He probably has his own lady who comes and does it. She has to stand on a stool, of course, because he's like 8.5 feet tall.
Right. I can believe that Lazenby has his own hairdresser.
Well, the way this was lacquered, it was amazing.
Yeah. He might even be a hairdresser. I can see him dabbling in the hair arts. You know what I mean?
Lazenby, he does dabble in the hair art.
He looks like a hair dabbler.
Right, he does look like a hair dabbler. The dude who played...
It's not a euphemism.
The guy who played
He's a bit of a hair dabbler, if you know what I mean?
The guy who played the hairy bollock cop, I liked him a lot.
I wasn't so keen on him.
He looked like a guy who...
I just wanted to smooth his hair down. It was bothering me. That was bothering me.
Maybe you were a dabbler of the hair arts.
Could be. Could be. My inner hairdresser was yearning to be free.
Coming out. I liked him because he reminded me of someone who might have been in an early Peter Jackson film.
He looked like an early Peter Jackson. Do you know what I mean? He did look like an early Peter Jackson.
He looked like early Peter Jackson and later Peter Jackson combined in a sack of hair.
Yeah, it's a sack of hair because there's just hair poking out the top of this brown lumpy sack.
So the Ayers Rock thing, that was kind of funny because I'm like, where's he running to? But it was also kind of cool.
Yeah.
Car explodes. Cut to Hong Kong. American woman paragliding all over Hong Kong, completely breaking the law, in their airspace, lands in the police training...
No, she's Australian.
Australian, sorry. Australian. Lands in the police training facility. That's illegal. Instead of arresting her, he takes her for a drive in a Mercedes, shows her Hong Kong, and then
he sort of threatens to arrest her and then has sex with her. Yeah. One of many blurred ethical lines
that
you wang my lord. He's basically an ethical line eraser.
Yeah.
He is. He just goes through his life taking whatever he wants.
He sees the ethical line, he says, I'm not having any
I'm not interested in that.
Not having any of it.
I'm not interested in that.
Due process? No.
What I like is it's one of my favourite bits, actually, again, I think must have been a bit of a joke, where he goes, there's 1,000 subtle torches that the Chinese use, and then it cuts to him, they just beating the shit out of each other in the
of course that's a joke, yeah.
And you go, so what it is, it's a question of honour. Like, if I beat you up, you will tell me what I need to know.
Yeah.
Because you've lost the fight. Like, that's the logic.
Yeah.
Not like, you beat me up, why, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm really unconscious. In fact, I think I'll just fall unconscious. That would be easier.
Right.
But I just quite like that. It's 1,000 subtle Chinese tortures, and it's just him beating them. And also, like, they're just having a fight. It's not even as if he's, like, tied up or anything, which I quite like. It was some honour to the fact they were just going at it mano a mano, kind of thing.
Yeah, and there was some good, like, 70s raspberry bloodletting, which I liked.
Yes, there was a lot of raspberry bloodletting.
Which was enjoyable. So he has a fight.
By the way, can I say a small word here?
Yeah.
I would like to express my personal admiration
for the
leaping skills of the fighting extras.
Right.
Because I feel like their ability to jump up in the air at like a moment's notice, you know, like somebody brushes the back of their knee and they're like up in the air 6 feet the wrong way round. Like, it's truly extraordinary what they're able to do.
So one of the scenes where we're
I'm not taking the mickey.
No, I get it. One of the scenes where we're introduced to Lazenby and his martial arts prowess was in the aforementioned martial arts school and henching academy.
Hench Academy.
Hench Academy of Sydney. Look it up. Still doing a roaring
standing, still there on the 10th floor.
A lot of other businesses have gone by the wayside, but
not George Lazenby's Academy of Hench.
There is a sequence where you see some martial arts guys doing their martial arts.
Yeah.
Lazenby stands in amongst them. Bit of a cheat, as he is at least 5 feet taller than any of them.
Yeah.
And he fights 3 of them at once. And
it could be like George Lazenby's blow off steam academy. Like, he just goes there to beat the shit out of small blokes.
Yeah, of course. That's the way it is.
Basically, I'll give you room and board if you wear the white pyjamas, beat anybody up who just climbs up to the 10th floor. I'll be honest, it doesn't happen often.
No.
But when it does happen, I will need you there.
I will need you.
Yeah, a bell will go. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And you will need to be there.
Yeah, and you'll know the noise because it'll be Brian Trenchard-Smith.
One at a time.
One at a time. Hang on, you're skipping way ahead.
I'm sorry. The George Lazenby Academy of Henching.
So
the leaping extras. My admiration for the leaping.
So we find out after the fight that Sneaky George has had a little metal pipe in his bandaged hand that's been allowed him to like punch harder and stronger than before.
Which is never mentioned again.
Never mentioned again, but it's just meant to indicate he's a bit of a shit.
He's a sneaky, yeah.
He's a shit.
Yeah.
George Lazenby, you're a shit in this movie.
You're a steel-fisted shit.
So he punches these 3 extras, and they do successively more ludicrous leaping, to the point where the 3rd guy leaps, hit the ground, rolls over, and somehow propels himself back in the air to like have a 3rd leap without his feet ever bouncing off the ground.
All the while,
he propels himself using his buttocks
properly as well, acting while doing it. Like, they're not like concentrating on what is a pretty delicate art of leaping.
Leaping.
They are screaming and well, they're not screaming, but they are contorting and looking pain.
Maybe you major in hench and you minor in leaping.
These lads are very much majored in, at this point in their careers,
they've majored in
leaping.
And leaping.
No, they've majored in leaping before they majored in henching. Because at the moment they're falling into the classic mistake of one at a time.
Right.
My guess is the master henchmen, they know to attack at once.
Right. So, later on in Hong Kong, I forget exactly when, in Australia, in Sydney, he reconnects with
the bird he shagged in Hong Kong.
Australian lady who he very sweatily had sex with.
Yeah, I thought she'd rolled on the beach.
But they're covered in
sand. Did we miss a beach scene? No, it was covered in sweat.
They were covered in sweat, but the sweat looked solid.
There's a weird tongue thing going on in this movie. Every time anybody made out, I can only assume this was
Yu Wang the
Lord, because he's insistent on getting his tongue out and like licking everything.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird.
Well, Yu Wang is a well-known exponent of the tongue.
I would be like, she might be like third or fourth choice leading lady. Because up to that point, everybody else had given him a slap.
Yeah, because every time his little slithery tongue came out, they were like, put it back in, you
really gross. It's like disgusting slithery tongue.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
So, so other notable sequences. He goes, as you said, goes to the
Martial Arts Academy.
Goes to Martial Arts Academy, climbs up the drain pipe.
There's a dull fight.
There's a fight where
a ridiculous fight,
and this is the big problem, is that nowadays we're a little bit spoiled in the sense that if you're going to have a sequence where one guy goes up against 15 people, even if after breaking it down with hindsight they are just attacking him one by one, the camera is kept at such a point that your mind is not allowed to think about that, because all you're looking at is him doing the moves and people flying through the thing, and maybe he takes two one at a time and da-da-da-da-da. I think the one directorial / choreography error in the sequence you're talking about, which is straight out of any of those like Enter the Dragon type movies, where, you know, you get a room full of martial arts expert, but our chappie is one expert more than the other guys and are able to take them all out, is that the camera was kept too back. So you had a situation where, yeah, he's taken on one or two who have a spear and a blade and other things.
But you are aware of a lot of blokes jumping around in
the background with swords, going, just stab him.
Yeah.
Just stab him, because he's busy doing stick wrestling with some other dude. You could really run up and shiv him with this.
I would not call myself a kung fu film expert by any means.
Right.
I have seen a couple.
Right.
And
ladies and gentlemen, he has seen a couple.
I've seen a couple of them.
Yeah.
And that never, like in Cleopatra Wong, or The One-Armed Executioner, or Enter the Dragon, or Legend of Seven Golden Vampires, like that was, even though that happened as well,
right?
It never bothered me before. It wasn't
never
ridiculous. And I think one of the problems for me in this one with those sequences is there's no weight to a lot of the moves.
Right.
So they run up and he, like, you know, he will just like push them on the back of the knees and they'll leap up into the air completely. And it's all like, it's like the big. It's how a fight sequence would be shot by somebody who knew how to do them, but not how to film them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like all the moves are in the right place, and the guys are around him, and they're coming at the right times and the right angles and everything.
Yeah.
But how the camera looks at them and sees them, there's no weight to any of the punches.
Right.
You can see the other guys in the background not do anything. It's just like, and it's also different from the rest of the film, because the rest of the film, there's a lot of movement. There's also a lot of colour. It's one of the reasons I really like it. There's a lot of colour in the movie. A lot of it's orange and brown because it's the 70s, but it's a very colourful, bright, interesting to look at picture.
Yeah.
But those sequences are quite dull, and there's nothing really visually interesting about them.
Because they're in a gym. They're in a beige gym.
And
they're all
always
wearing white.
It's just kind of, it's very bog standard.
Although our hero is in a bright blue Adidas tracksuit,
which I like. But it does look like those sequences were shot. Like, but the one where he gets attacked in the garden party is much more interesting. They're using weird implements. Because you're close up on each guy. He takes them all like one at a time, but it doesn't strike you as ridiculous. It strikes you as
No, the garden party one was interesting because he's fighting with Lazenby.
Yeah.
And he's given as good as he's getting, and then somehow, and I'm not really sure how, maybe they're triggered by some sort of alarm once the shrimp dip gets knocked over. Because the shrimp dip gets knocked over, and suddenly 4 gardeners out of nowhere.
It's the chefs.
It's the chefs and the gardeners.
But I just preparing that. Grab the knives, lads.
One of them was definitely like Hervé the gardener. One of them definitely.
Well, I tell you what I
big
quite like is
mustache.
this is
Curly another little curly bollock man.
Halfway through that sequence, you realise that you think, "Oh, where's George Lazenby?" And then you realise that he's just leaning up against the tent, watching the fight happen, which is what your Kingpin should do.
Right.
He should absolutely enjoy the mayhem that he's created.
And so it's interesting because. So anyway, that happens, and both fights are really great. But basically, the movie, like the second half of the first act, where you're kind of establishing who everyone is, and you're establishing the Aussie guys like screaming at him and saying like, you can't be doing this and you can't be doing that, blah 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 blah. Drags a little, but then Trenchard-Smith knows. Once the fight sequences start, not to let up. Because, like, the rest of the movie is essentially montages of fight sequences and chases.
For me, the only bum note of the pacing was the...
love scene.
Because it was like they
so anyway, so yeah...
Wait. The great thing at Ayers Rock, that great scene was they go, and there's a guy, we're going to have to send for a guy. And then, from Hong Kong or whatever, and then it cuts to him.
Yeah.
And he's like beating people up and going through training stuff, and then it's like the man from Hong Kong. And it's like, great, there's only this guy, and this is the guy that's coming. And then at that point, he needs to cut. Like I just said, he's coming, and then, training sequence, hard ass, like this bloke means business, and then the man from Hong Kong title. Then he needs to like be on the plane and go. Not like, I've met some random Australian bird who isn't really very important to the plot.
Well, she leads him to people later on once he's back in Sydney, and she's a kite flyer, which, as I said, was all the rage back in the 70s.
Yeah, but he could have bumped into her. He could have done the kite flying thing. I'm just saying, I didn't like her.
He could have run to any cliff face anywhere in the Antipodean
I just didn't
area.
like that. I get why you wanted to have like sex after the violence of the opening. I get that.
Antipodean, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah, but there wasn't really much in the way of sex. She was not very sexy. I just understood why that sequence needed to be there, but it sucked a little bit of the air out of the movie for me.
So then later
on, for me to get back on board.
So then later on in the movie, he's been fighting in the martial arts studio. The second half of that fight is more exciting because, like you say, Trenchard-Smith gets back up and he fights him on top of an elevator.
Jumps on an elevator, that's a fight with him, which is great.
Meanwhile, two of the most 70s people who I think probably ever existed, one of whom had even more drastically mismatching beard and hair colour than I do. So he had long blonde hair and then a big dark brown, what looked like fake beard.
Yeah.
And he was wearing a pastel blue leisure suit.
He looked like he walked out of an Eagles documentary.
Yeah. Yes. He looked like maybe either a roadie or the manager's assistant in a documentary about the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
And then the other guy who looked like proto Christopher Walken from View to a Kill.
Actually, I thought he looked like proto bad guy from For Your Eyes Only, the one that gets kicked off the cliff in the car.
Yeah, he had that as well. Yeah, definitely looked like any form of orange or yellow sunglassing wearing
mid-level Bond villain
with orange sunglasses.
Yeah.
That whole fight sequence in the elevator was great, but Yuang Malord has been stabbed, slashed, and whatever, and is bleeding to death.
That's right. Yeah.
As he escapes the martial arts studio, a little van truck thing comes around the corner. He grabs hold, goes off, climbs through the window, and it turns out to be an Asian woman, an Australian woman. He explains to the Asian woman in Chinese what's going on and who he is.
Well, not really.
And then kind of like...
Not on screen. What he says...
Not on screen, but
on
like...
screen he says, those men were trying to kill me. Oh, should we take you to hospital? No hospitals.
No hospitals.
That's fine. I'll take you home to my dad.
Yeah. So her dad, who happens to be a vet, which what I liked about that was it was nice to see that even as far back as the 70s, the take the good guy who happens to have been injured but can't go to a hospital to a vet as if, well, they're damn near a doctor.
Fortunately, his fake doctor instincts kick in right away. Right. And instead of saying, who the bloody hell is this then? Yeah. Oh, it's all right, Dad. He's been shot. He jumped into our car.
Been slashed.
Well, take him to hospital then. Well, he says he doesn't want to go to hospital. Don't really give a fuck what he wants. Take him to the hospital. What do you want me to do? I'm a vet. You're a vet. You can do something. I could do something.
Yeah.
Or, and hear me out here, you take him to the fucking hospital.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to go. Is he conscious now? No. Then who gives a fuck what he wants? I don't know if I raised you wrong.
Yeah.
Take him to the hospital.
Yeah, but they don't do that.
They do not do that.
The vet, on the other hand, goes, "Oh, yeah, lie him down."
Yeah. Principle's the same.
Principle's the same as stitching up
he
an animal.
He looks like he's voluntarily slowed his heartbeat down to
Yeah,
to
so we
hold
find
blood
out that
which I was quite impressed by, even though it was obviously baloney. I'm still quite impressed by
You
it.
find out that Yu Wang, my lord, is able to
Yes.
calm himself down. Probably
He's sort of like a kung fu Damon Albarn, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got like a mantra. It's probably like, calm down, you've been
He's got
stabbed.
the
Calm
blue
down, you've been
tracksuit.
stabbed.
He's got the blue tracksuit.
Yeah.
Do you want more coffee or hot water? Or
No, we're okay.
No, we're good. Yeah, we'll get the check.
you sure?
Yes, we're all good.
How you often?
Thank you very
All
much.
good,
Thank you.
While recuperating over a bowl of Chinese soup that his Australian lady has prepared,
Dad,
they
I'm just going to go and have sex with the criminal I brought back. No problem.
No problem. Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
Happy New Year. Take care. So they fall in love very quickly.
Very quickly.
I mean, very quickly.
She has time for 2 outfits.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's it.
So 2 days?
And listen, I want to fall in love quickly, as we all know. And luckily, it's worked out. But in this case, you suspect it's doomed to failure.
Yeah.
But it does allow Trenchard-Smith to get one more set of Norks in the movie. So for that,
Well, the only
we
set.
thank him.
The only set of
set
Norks.
of Norks. The only set
full
of-
Nork.
Full Nork.
Full Nork.
Full Nork.
100% Nork action.
Nork action was in this movie. And we get a nice couple of at this point. Weirdly, they saved the borderline racist jokes for the love sequence, which is odd. But
There's a few.
There's a few other ones,
The
but
yellow
like-
streak.
Right, but that's Lazenby. So it's that.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, there's a big love montage with the song over the top with "Man will be man, will be man. I love you. Let's get some
Chorus
tea."
goes here.
Right, where they're doing such things.
Chorus
as
goes here.
Popping up
chorus,
through,
the chorus goes here.
popping up through rusty pipes with no thought whatsoever to tetanus. She just gets topless by that. Anyway, this goes on. There's a nice montage, sing-songery. At one point, they're riding along in a horse-drawn wagon. And you're like,
A horse-drawn wagon comes out of
where did
nowhere.
that come? Maybe vets just have it.
Brian, we found a horse-drawn wagon. That would do for the love scene. Put that aside for the love scene.
Keep it on the side of the love scene.
Do you want me topless in the horse-drawn carriage?
Could be seen.
Let's shoot it both ways. We'll decide in the edit.
We'll decide in the edit. Look on the special features for the topless horse-drawn carriage sequence. So that happens. Then they get in the van and they're off because obviously you would get the girl who just saved your life and you've fallen in love with and had sex with to come with you when you're going to
revenge mission.
when you're going to take down a big kingpin.
Yeah, because she's actually got a lot of skills of her own, which are
nothing.
she's
Dying.
related to a vet.
Well, maybe he's taking her along as insurance just in case he gets hurt again. And
She could
needs to
drive
take
him back to the vet.
It's basically the same.
Yeah.
You have
It's
one.
probably a good idea. That, I understand why he didn't want to be taken to a hospital because
There's no reason. Oh, because they could kill him there.
yes, good point. They could.
And yet, go figure this. They can kill him, right, at the hospital.
Right.
Yeah. So he goes to the middle of nowhere and gets treated by a vet. Yet, when he's driving the roads back from the vet's place in the middle of the bush to Sydney, they manage to find him with no
No, they
problem.
found him with the number plate.
Right, oh yeah.
When they were driving away, there was a number plate, and it
Right.
took them 2 weeks, or however long the love affair lasted, to track down the number plate.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay,
Yeah.
right.
For which George Lazenby's quite unhappy it's taken that long, and I sympathise with him on this.
Yeah.
Why is it taking that long?
So anyway, then the car chase ensues, during which their van goes over the side of a small hill, of course explodes.
Yeah.
Well, it explodes already because they put a mine on the back of
Which
it.
that was quite cool.
Which fine, but then it rolls down the hill, explodes some more.
But I quite like that because that was like I'm on a motorbike. I've seen what happens when you try and shoot through a window. They just they just run you over. So I'm going to put a bomb in the back and drive off.
Yeah, it was a good plan. However, Yuan Malord crawls free, dragging I've Just Met You Bird out of the van, only to find out that she's probably dead.
Probably dead.
He doesn't do a thorough check.
No.
Right? Doesn't call anybody.
No.
Doesn't get an ambulance. Doesn't do anything.
He pulls her out of the car.
Yeah.
He looks at her.
Yeah.
Looks a bit sad. Leaves her there.
Leaves her there, and then the car explodes a third time.
Yeah.
Probably exploding her at the same time. At
But
no
he
point,
very much does not check for a pulse.
At no point later on in the movie does he call the vet and say, "I'm terribly sorry, but
You're probably
only
wondering
daughter."
where your daughter is.
Yeah. Blown up.
She's probably
dead. Probably.
I couldn't hang around, as you can probably imagine. Well, why not? I did have to complete my revenge mission, which was actually 10% more revengey after they killed her.
Yeah.
After they probably killed her.
She could, however, be crawling home.
She could be.
But
My
I
advice
didn't
is,
stick around.
drive down the road with your head out the window. Just keep an eye out.
When you see the exploded van,
see anybody crawling along,
having been exploded,
probably her.
Probably her.
Keep your eye out. You'll be fine. I've got to go.
He didn't even make that call, though.
No.
He didn't even make that call. At the end of the movie, after the title sequence, credit sequence runs, it should just cut to the vet with a single tear coming out of his eye. And then maybe he revenges his death again. If they'd done Man from Hong Kong 2, it should have been
Vets to Hong Kong.
Vets to Hong Kong. Oz Vet to Hong Kong.
I would actually very much like to see a film
in which
where
the
a vet goes after
avenges himself.
The ethics-free cop that got his daughter killed in 70s Sydney.
Yeah.
Starring Liam Neeson as the vet.
As the vet. But it would have to be set in the 70s.
Yes.
So it's made now, but we go back in time. Right. Yes, get on that, Trenchard-Smith. I think that would be great.
I like that idea.
I would love that idea.
Genuinely, I think that's quite a good idea.
It is quite a good idea. However, we need to spin on. We then get him. He completely forgets about her. Car chase. Well, he throws a woman out of her car, which is hilarious. Grabs a woman or a guy, I don't know who it is, out of a blue sports car that just happens to be driving along.
Well, that's one of the more... Like, cars driving on a road, I think we can let
No, it was the fact that he just opens the door, drags her out, and gets in the car and drives off.
Well, she was a bit surprised. I mean, he ran out front of the car, she stopped, and then, without much more... I mean, he just reached in, grabbed her and threw her out.
Yeah.
Or him.
He then drives to... Lazenby, who's figured out that he's on his way because he gets a phone call.
Well, no, because he murders all his men on the way, doesn't he?
He gets a phone call.
He gets a phone call from who, is my question.
Don't know.
Because the men go out, either somebody called him up and goes, George, they're not back yet, we're a bit worried.
Yeah.
But he seems to know that they're all dead. And that
so he's like, he's coming for me.
Is there like a search party for the... Like, what happens when the assassins don't come back?
Just split it. Yeah, right now. So he goes into his safe.
When assassins don't return.
Yeah, he's got... That's a trequel then. Threequel. He goes into
That's more like the ironic art house behind the scenes.
Full of guns and drugs. Yeah. Gets a gun. Doesn't put it anywhere near him. Puts him on a table quite a way away.
Goes to sit down, has a cup of tea.
Has a cup of tea. Waits for Yuang, my lord, to show up.
Yeah.
Which he does. Having enlisted,
he's very well secured because he's got a fat 70-year-old security guard downstairs.
And he hasn't given the keys.
If anything, I feel like Yuang, my lord, overthought it.
He's welded himself into his office because
That's
they literally
can't
get in. They literally can't get into his office without a blowtorch. They have to blowtorch a large unwieldy circle through his door. No, at first they have to axe down one of the wooden doors.
And they know this is happening, too, because as soon as the alarm goes, they grab the acetylene torches.
Yeah. So they know that this is what they have to do.
So can we get to the part where George Lazenby voluntarily sets himself on fire?
Yeah, so in the...
Literally.
I'm
not joking, listeners.
In the climactic scene...
He really sets himself on fire. Not the character, George Lazenby sets himself on fire.
And actually incurred second-degree burns doing the stuff.
And I could see why as well. Because the thing was,
at one point,
while it was happening, Crossy said to me, oh yeah, he did this for real and he got second-degree burns. And this sequence went on for another 20 seconds. And all the way through it was horrifying to watch, knowing...
Because it's
he didn't know what he was doing.
It's in slow motion, and he clearly can't get the jacket off.
He can't get
once the jacket is heated up.
He tries to take the jacket off, and he clearly can't get it off.
Yeah.
And you can see his hands his hands are getting burned.
And
I don't care what they did to the jacket or his back, his hands are getting burned.
What is remarkable is that Trenchard-Smith clearly kept it all in the film. He was like, we're going to use every single frame because he endured the burns.
You've got to suffer for your art, George. You want to suffer for nothing?
Yeah. So then, a rather
I'm all the way
again,
it,
as if the ethical line wasn't untethered and flapping in the breeze enough.
Right.
Our completely unethical copper, who apparently we side with, even though I'm not really quite sure.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why we side with him either.
Considering all he was meant to do was come over and facilitate a extradition, and instead he's blown up and killed everyone in Australia.
His motivation for doing it, first of all, he's a drug dealer, therefore he deserves to die. Fine, although we don't see George kill anybody, do we? No.
We see him try to kill him, and then he, by extension, kills the girl.
Yeah, but I feel like he's more to blame than
for the girl
George.
killing, because he put her in the
George doesn't go, we're going to take the girl down to show him we
kill
mean
the
business.
vet's daughter.
Yeah. Find me the vet's daughter, bring me the head of the daughter of the vet.
Yeah.
No, she's in the van because idiot face took her along on a revenge mission.
Yeah.
He should shoot himself in the head.
Yeah. So anyway...
So he's got no reason for being this mean and grumpy about the whole
At this point, he pulls the tent peg out of the ethical line and it blows off across the harbour.
Well, he stuffs it into George Lazenby's mouth wrapped around a hand grenade.
Yeah,
takes the pin out.
Sticks a hand grenade in his mouth, wraps tape around his head and goes, write a confession. Which you never see him do, but when he gets down to the ground, he's got a written confession.
Like, oh, don't worry, I've got evidence. I've got a confession.
And half a bag of coke.
Because, I presume the trial will go something like this. So, you walked into the building, right? Then he
didn't walk into the building. He abseiled down the side and broke in through
without
the window.
a warrant or cause.
Having almost...
He stuffed a hand grenade in his mouth, forced him to write a confession. I guess he's dead. They can say anything they want now. There won't even be a trial. He could come down with oh, don't worry, I went in and I killed him, but I put a grenade in there, so all the evidence is gone, so I'll just tell everybody that it was fine.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
Presumably.
Yeah.
Oh, look,
I've
got some heroin
from Hong Kong.
And a forced confession.
Yeah.
Then you're going to jail. Welcome to Australian jail.
Yeah.
P.S. We fished the vet's daughter. Right, out of the ditch that you left her in. You are so going to jail.
The ditch which had exploded.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how the movie ends. But it's a jolly good romp.
Yes.
As long as you don't look at the ethical violations.
Yeah.
And it's got a nice sort of Asian James Bond type vibe about it.
Yeah.
George Lazenby's, I think he's bloody good in it.
Yeah, he's good.
Charming.
He does look like a psychotic Basil Fawlty.
At one point, he does look like a slightly better looking Basil Fawlty, and it did have me chuckling because he's wearing a blazer and being particularly lunatic with his henchmen.
Yeah.
And it does recall Fawlty-esque activities. But it's, I really think for any independent filmmakers out there, right, this is what you do. Get a local band, I don't care how good or bad they are, to record a funk soundtrack, right?
I would get a local funk band.
Go to a local funk.
I wouldn't get
do you know what? I would say your first clue would be to look up a funk band. Not any band, but specifically a funk.
I'm just like, if you want to record you a funk soundtrack, while I applaud the experimental nature of, well, normally they play thrash metal, but we're going to get their take on a funk fu soundtrack. Actually, now that I've said it, I would quite want to hear a thrash metal band's funk kung fu soundtrack.
Yeah. So get a funky soundtrack and get someone who knows what they're doing with a camera, and then go out into the world. Like, don't film it in your
location. Don't pretend it's somewhere else. Be where you are.
Yeah.
I hate that when they're pretending that. I hate when I find out that like a TV series that's in Chicago is actually filmed in Vancouver.
Right.
It ruins it for me.
So someone the other day was talking about Pay the Ghost. My friend Sheena was talking about Pay the Ghost. The one
the New
we
York
saw
one
when it came.
We couldn't figure out if it was New York.
It's filmed in Toronto. Right. And it made me suddenly think, right, because we accept all the time that, oh, it's filmed here for this city, or it's filmed in wherever for this city. Why would it be bad if a movie took place in Toronto? Why would any, like...
Because you'd have to have Nick Cage putting on a Canadian accent.
Why? There are plenty of American... Like, there are plenty of like English people in movies and they don't go, well, he's here on a visa. Like, nobody explains why they're here.
Van Damme always has a reason.
Well, Van Damme always has a reason. He was raised by...
I was raised by Belgian nuns.
One of them was raised by Belgian nuns and the other one had a French nanny, was it? What was it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the... I think if you could do like a top 10 of...
One of you was raised in America, California. One was raised in Hong Kong.
Top 10 reasons why Jean-Claude Van Damme sounds funny.
Yeah. But no, that's in that movie. One of them is raised in Hong Kong, and one of them is raised in California, and they both sound identical. That's quite a feat. Yeah. I mean, that really is quite a feat.
Yeah, that's true. But but I think you're right.
Even if it was the same order of Belgian nuns, and they were in two separate countries.
I think there's your answer right there.
The accent would still be
there's your answer.
Yeah.
So we should do questions, right?
Yes, we should. But yes, everyone go see The Man with Hong Kong. Available now on Umbrella Blu-ray. Don't worry, it is an Australian Blu-ray, but it is good for regions A, B, and C. And comes with the extra feature of 5 more extra features. Literally. Like 5 more feature films.
Very cool.
As well as a making of the movie, commentaries on 3 of the films, blah, 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 blah. Like this.
That's a pretty good deal.
So it is $30 on Amazon, but it is loaded. Like, it's not like with the studios where you pay $24.99 for a Blu-ray and there's literally fuck all on it but a trailer and maybe the waft of Jean-Claude Van Damme's shorts as he walks past the camera. Why that would be...
What Blu-rays do you own? Exactly.
But it's well worth it. It's got all the stuff on it you'd want. Now let's go to questions. Here comes the postman. I wonder what he has for me. Is there something in his big brown sack? I wonder what could it be? Well, I hope the bills it lacks and instead brings me some listener feedback, or maybe, just maybe, a big bag of crack. Oh, here comes the postman. I wonder what he has for me. Okay, so, very quickly, Motown Media, or Matt Farley on Twitter, asks, what are the best 3 Alfred Hitchcock movies? He says Rear Window, Psycho, and Rope.
I'd have to say North by Northwest.
Okay.
Rear Window.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck am I talking about? Sorry. 39 Steps, North by Northwest, Rear Window.
I'm going to go Strangers on a Train, Rear Window.
Oh, that's tough, because I actually want to get The Lady Vanishes in there as well.
I'm going to go Strangers on a Train, Rear Window, and it's Rope or Psycho.
Okay, all right, I'm going to go 39 in this order: 39 Steps, North by Northwest, Rear Window. No, 39 Steps, Rear Window, 39 Steps, North by Northwest. Honourable mention for Lady Vanishes.
Okay. He then also asked, he had 2 questions.
Yeah.
Between John, me,
Yeah.
Jim, and Jay Mayo, who gives the best performance in Slingshot Cops?
Can I make a small confession here?
What's that?
I haven't watched it yet. I've had the Blu-ray for a while now, but I had to wait for Teresa to come home to watch it.
Do you have a Blu-ray player now?
Yeah, I've got the Xbox. So I wanted to buy the Blu-ray, so I couldn't make it to the screening because Teresa was sick. And we haven't had a chance to watch it yet. But I will watch it, and I'll no doubt conclude that I'm the best.
Jay Mayo's the best.
But I can't...
We're going to go with Jay Mayo, because that was the consensus on Twitter. Around Seattle on Twitter, there's a Seattle-based Twitterer.
Okay.
Or tweeter.
Or near.
Or near. Says, one of the best hidden gem movies that no one has seen. I would say...
I Went Down?
I Went Down. Good one.
Brendan, it's an Irish movie about 2...
Along the same lines, The Guard is very good.
Yeah, but The Guard, lots of people have seen The Guard.
Have they?
Yes.
Okay.
But I Went Down is like... I couldn't find I Went Down even on DVD when I tried to find it.
I mean, I feel like I've answered this question before, but it would definitely have to be Sir Henry at Rawlinson End, although it's not for everybody.
Okay, so just very quickly, if you like Brendan Gleeson, and who the fuck doesn't?
Right.
I Went Down is my favourite film of his. He plays a hitman who takes along another guy, and they go on a job. It's like a usual kind of 90s thing, but it's really beautiful and very funny and smart and cool, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Okay.
Zero Effect? Have people seen Zero Effect?
Zero Effect.
I watched that again the other day. It gets even better every time I watch Zero Effect.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Really good. Zero Effect,
there was like things happening in it that I didn't even...
Zero Effect, Candy Mountain.
Candy Mountain's a good one.
Okay, so around Seattle, please tweet me. And
but let's say, for me, I went down and Zero Effect.
So, Gary Hill on Facebook asked, do you think Jim Kelly, the famous African-American martial artist, taught George Lazenby some sweet moves, martial arts or other, meaning sweet moves with the ladies or sweet moves with martial arts? Because Jim Kelly was in Death Dimension with George Lazenby. So do we reckon that Kelly had anything to do with Lazenby's thing? I mean, it would be purely hypothetical at this stage, considering poor Jim Kelly is dead.
I guess,
and I couldn't find anything online other than them both being in Death Dimension.
I guess I like the idea of, especially...
Oh, Real Men.
Real Men's a good hidden gem, yeah.
Real Men is a good hidden gem. Anyway, carry on.
So I guess I like the idea of actors sitting around on the sets of B movies, like swapping, like especially ones that like maybe their best days of and whatever, but like swapping stories and swapping tips and I don't know, mucking in together. I like that idea.
Yes.
So yes, I guess it is possible.
It is possible. And do you know what it also made me feel like is there's clearly a lot of George Lazenby movies out there that I need to see. That's how it made me feel. Because I haven't seen Death Dimension, and I haven't seen the one that came before this, and I didn't see the one that came after this that he was in with Yu Wang Malone. So
cool. All right. So was that it for the questions?
That was it, I think, for the questions.
All right.
Yeah. So thank you, Jim.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Man with Hong Kong. Check it out on the Umbrella Blu-ray. Well worth if you're into 70s action,
Kung
Fu films, Brian Trenchard-Smith films,
car chases.
Grant Page, the stunt guy, because he's in all of them, I think. And just awesome B movies. Well worth the purchase. I have not been disappointed. A good transfer as well, right?
Yeah, it looks great.
Nicely cleaned up.
Yeah. The Ayers Rock shot at the beginning was beautiful. I mean, it looked really crisp.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot of really beautiful shots.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, cool.
Thanks, man.
Done.